Hey guys, Rick Bosco here with another episode of MMA Media Monthly. It's a little show that I put out every month, talking to people who are in MMA media, finding out about them, how they go about their daily business and how they got into it, and giving some tips to you guys if you want to try and get into writing about MMA or any other sport, I guess, could carry over. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Today I'm sitting down with James Lynch. I'm sure you've seen his videos pretty much everywhere. So I'm going to talk about freelancing and how he got to start, and some, we'll see how the conversation goes. But I hope you guys enjoy it, and please subscribe to my channel if you like these kinds of videos. Leave a comment or hit me up on Twitter. Okay, thanks guys.
What's up, Nicole? How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thank you so much for doing this.
I love this format. I love doing these types of shows, so it's a lot of fun. So I don't get to do these often, so I like it.
Great. I'll just go ahead and start firing away at you if you don't mind. All right.
Yeah, go for it.
So you are probably like one of the most busiest guys in MMA media, I think. You got your stuff all over the place. So how is it different now, like freelancing, as when you were in just like one outlet doing your stuff?
It's very different. I'm way busier, but part of that is because like when I was working for one outlet, I was, I had a salary, so it didn't matter. It's like, I'd get my work done. If it doesn't have to get done today, I can do it tomorrow. But because of being a freelancer, like all my money is from the content I do. So if I don't do any content, I don't get paid. I don't get paid by the hour. So I have to work like 3 times as much. But I'll tell you what, Nicole, I'm 100% happier this way. It is busy, and there are times when I'm like, man, I'm doing way too much, but I really do love what I do. So it's like a lot of times it's like worth the amount of effort I'm putting into it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I don't know if you saw the other episodes I did. I talked to Dan Tom already. I talked to Nolan King, and they're like MMA junkie guys. So they like have different way of doing things, being with one company than like, working for several different ones. How did you pick and choose like which ones you're going to work for, other than like pay? Obviously if you want to get paid, but like how do you like have a process to go through?
So yeah, it's like all the work I have now, like it's a combination of like, in terms of me getting the gig, a lot of it was, people reaching out to me, or it was me reaching out to them and just sort of figuring out what like, I always sort of, my approach when it comes to freelancing is like, I always, if a site gets in touch with me or vice versa, I always kind of ask, what is it that you need from your site? Because I think that's a good place to start, because if there's, expectations or needs that the site has, if you can, accommodate that, whether it's they need writing or video or whatever, it's good to get that established right away. In terms of the interviews, like I have different outlets that pay me, obviously, and we talked about this there, for certain interviews, like, I like a higher tier interview, like a main event guy, like a Dominic Cruz or Colby Covington or Israel Adesanya is going to get me paid more than say, there's a regular UFC fighter. So it's a bit of a balancing act. I use a lot of Google spreadsheets to kind of keep track of everything, but that's how I sort of do it. And the reason I like doing the, per rate thing with outlets as opposed to, doing sort of a monthly thing is that way I know how much I'm making each month. Cause as a family, having a family, I want to make sure I know how much I'm making each month. So I don't want to rely on like, ad revenue. Like I've had some people be like, hey, if you hit a certain threshold of views, and it's like, I can't do that. Like I need something that's concrete that we're going to, work this out, and I'll do my best to give you the best content I can, but it's got to be something where I know each month how much I'm making. So I've kind of done that. And that's sort of how I distinguish who I'm working for, what I'm doing. And the thing is I can do a variety of things, whether it's, video interviews or writing or editing. So I have all types of different gigs in this industry, which makes it very interesting.
You don't have to say like for like names of things, but have you ever turned down a job because maybe you don't like the way they do things? Not because of pay. Like obviously if they're not paying you enough, then obviously you're not going to do it. But is there any other like reasons that you wouldn't want to work for a certain outlet or certain people?
I turned down another.
Last week, they wanted me to do a podcast with another host, and they wanted us to get guests on every week. And I said, that's just way too much work. Like, I don't care how much you can pay me. I just don't have time to like coordinate with someone else and try and get, guests on a show. Like I am starting a new podcast tomorrow with John Coe, but that's like us just, meeting at the same time every week. We don't have to book guests. It's us talking about fights and doing a Q&A. Like that's easy for me. The biggest thing you learn as a freelancer, and I'm sure you know this as well, is time. I mean, it doesn't even matter how much you're getting paid. Is this going to be worth my time? And that's what you really have to determine. And, and I'll say one thing as well, a little industry secret, maybe not a secret, but I'm sure you've experienced this as well, is a lot of outlets will try and get the most they can out of you. And you have to be a little selfish in this industry a little bit. And I think that's important because there will be outlets that take advantage of you. I've heard some horror stories about certain outlets paying like just ridiculous amounts for content. Like, we're going to pay you $10 for an article. And it's like, that's not worth, like, you could make more than that at McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be smart about your time. And I think that's the most valuable thing. So that's usually how I determine the type of work I'm going to do is it going to be worth my time? Is it, like, for example, there's some outlets that pay me a little bit less, but it doesn't take me much time to get the content done. So it's worth my time. But if it's something where it's going to be a long process, I usually, stray away from it, so to speak.
I had a situation where I was writing for a website. I won't say the name of it, but like when you scroll down and there's like ads that pop up, and the ads, I did not like the ads that they were putting on there, and I was like, I don't want like my grandma to click on my article and then like this ad pop up of like something that I do not want my grandma to see. So I like had to stop. I was like, I can't write for that kind of thing because like, but those kind of things you can't really control. Like, does that stuff bother you? Do you ever see anything like that?
Yeah, luckily I haven't run into a situation like that, but I would get it. Like, if there's something I didn't support or didn't like, or there's something that, I don't agree with, then yeah, maybe I would put my foot down, but I'm pretty reasonable when it comes to, doing things. But yeah, like, luckily I've never had to run into anything like that, whether it's like a bad ad or like maybe someone I didn't like working with or something. I'm pretty, I'm pretty open with that stuff. But at the same time, like, yeah, you're right. Like, there's certain stuff, you do draw a line somewhere. I'm not working for everybody. You know what I mean? So.
True. You mentioned different people are paying for different like types of interviews, but how do you pick and choose like which one's going to go where? And do you have fighters or managers that request that it goes a certain place or not?
I don't really get that. I have some where they're like, which outlet is this for? And they'll want to know, and I'll sort of explain why, or I'll say like, and sometimes they're like, oh, I'd prefer it for this one. Like that rarely happens. Sometimes it has happened, but you just got to sort of roll with the punches. And kind of my thing is like, I'm a pretty fair guy. I'm Canadian. I have a reputation to uphold as a Canadian, as a, nice guy and all that stuff. So what I like doing when it comes to the big interviews is like, let's say I give one outlet like a really big interview. Maybe if I get another big interview, I'll give that to another outlet. Cause I have a couple outlets that'll pay for like, really sort of big interviews, the ones I'm talking about, the ones that get picked up by all the outlets and stuff, like, bigger names. You sort of know who I'm speaking about if you watch MMA. So what I'll do is like, yeah, I'll kind of vary it out. So if one outlet gets a big interview, maybe the next time I'll give it to another one and then another one. And then I sort of go back and forth and try and balance it the best I can. And I've had outlets sometimes be like, how come you didn't, give us this interview? And I'm like, look, I'm just trying to be fair. Like, I try and give it to one outlet or not. But I think most know the position I'm in. I'm in a very unique position where I think, well, no, I am the only guy who's doing this full time as a video guy mainly. So that's where, it's just a balancing act, but I think everyone knows I'm fair to them. And it's, like I said, if I don't give you maybe the best interview, maybe I'll give it to you next time. Like, I'm pretty fair with that stuff. And I don't think I'd get employed if it was that case, if I was sort of screwing some outlets over. Right. So.
I mean, I found that I put on my thing, I says like fan-sided, MMA media, whatever, like my MMA news, all this stuff I work for. But then like if I like get somebody reaches out to me, like I think they always want to assume that it's going to be for fan-sided because it's like the bigger one. But like sometimes like, and then I have to feel like weird like saying like, oh, but I'm going to put it for this one, and then like they don't seem happy.
Just be honest with them. And I mean, I just say, look, like this just doesn't, this doesn't work for me. Is this okay? Whatever. Like, sometimes you do have to negotiate a little bit. I don't really think I've had that before, but I could see, someone saying that, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, if you do good work, I don't think it matters. And this is something I also wanted to kind of bring up here. I knew we would talk about it. Is like, there's this sort of notion that you have to work for a big outlet to like, get good interviews or do good work. That's 100% not true. Your reputation is the most important thing in this industry. And I think there's a lot of us, and yourself included, who've continued to do really good work in this industry because of your reputation. And you're not known as someone who's, either hard to work with or, making the fighters look bad and all that stuff. Like, I think I think that triumphs everything. And I think that's probably why I haven't dealt with a lot of those situations, because at the end of the day, it's about me more than the brand itself, I think. And that's sort of where I don't run into issues like that, I would think. And it's not trying to sound conceited. It's just like, it's a respect thing. Like, I think people know if I'm doing an interview, I'm not a liability, if that makes sense.
Did you ever have a moment like an interview or something that you felt like you needed to cut out, or like you were like, maybe I shouldn't post this, something they said?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Had that happen a couple times. Yeah, a couple, like I had a fighter say something just really disrespectful, and it's just like, like, I don't want to leave that in there. But it rarely happens. Luckily, most of the people I talk to are not like, like controversial or anything like that. And it's one of those things too, where maybe I'll mention it to the fighter, like, hey, or I've had fighters too say something that they're like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. Like, I had a fighter, they had like a visa issue, and they brought up like where they were living. They're like, can you cut that part out? And I was like, that's fine. Like, I know in general, in journalism, like, you shouldn't be that, take orders from the subject you're interviewing, but I'm, like I said, I'm pretty reasonable with that stuff. And if it's like a harmless request, and it's like, whatever, then we'll figure it out that way. So.
Do you have like set work hours? I know it's like you have to schedule around people, but Do you have like, how do you set your schedule up?
Monday to Thursday. Okay, I'll tell you my secret.
Yeah.
Secret, Nicole, because I know this is part of it. You want to get some tips here, which I'm fine with. I love doing this, honestly. Like it's a lot of fun for me. So what I do is I schedule things Monday to Thursday, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time. Now I live in Vancouver. I'm on Pacific time, but for whatever reason, I just like scheduling things in Eastern because it gives me that buffer. So I know if like I do have to schedule something, it's like, oh, I still have time to like go pick up my kid from daycare or like eat dinner, you know? So I schedule everything in Eastern time. That's kind of a weird thing I do. The reason I do Monday to Thursday is because I like having Fridays as like a day to like kind of get caught up on stuff, or like if I want to go golfing or I want to do like other things, like it's a bit of a lighter day for me. So I kind of make sure I do most of my work earlier in the week. And then that way Friday gives me a bit of a buffer. And then I try not to work on weekends because, as you know, Nicole, family time is very important. I try and make sure I'm not married to this completely. You know, I'll obviously follow what's going along on the weekend. And I certainly do a bit of work on the weekend, but I try not to schedule stuff on the weekend because I do want to make sure I'm still being a good dad and, you know, seeing my grandparents and all that stuff like that. You can very easily get addicted to this industry. It is a 24/7 industry, but I think you got to also have a personal life. Otherwise you'll go crazy and you'll burn yourself out. So that's usually what I do Monday to Thursday. So Fridays have also kind of turned into a day where, you know, because I still produce content on my YouTube channel. For those who don't know, like all my interviews, they get sold to outlets. That's how I make my living. But my YouTube channel has become it's become sort of two things. Number one is, you know, my podcast, my Q&A I do every week on my channel. That's just more to like give back to people and, you know, just interact with my audience. And then I have like the pros picks, and I have like any extra interview, like stuff that I have for my interviews, I'm allowed to use that on my channel. So the YouTube channel for me is kind of like my side hustle now. Like I do make some money off of it. And so I have that like sort of going on as well as my Patreon. So Fridays, usually what I'll do is I'll edit all my content for the upcoming week and have that ready to go for next week. And then for the Patreon people, if you sign up, you get early access to all my pros picks. So I usually get them all done on Friday. I'll post them all at once so you can watch them early. And then I slowly release them on my channel throughout the week because I like posting content on my channel, like one piece of content a day, basically. That's how it works.
How do you deal with sticking to a schedule, like when fighters or people you're talking to are like late? That happens to me all the time. I wind up like sitting in front of the computer for like an hour sometimes. Like, should I sign off? Are they going to come on? Like, but then how far apart do you schedule?
I don't care who
there is. Like, oh, I shouldn't say that. Like, I guess if it's like a really big name, maybe you'll give a little bit more leeway. But like my rule is 15 minutes. And I know that's not a lot of leeway, but if you don't get back to me in 15 minutes, I say, let's reschedule. Cause I just got too much to do. Now, luckily with me, like I usually have a lot of editing to do anyways. So if someone's late, it's not a huge deal. It just gives me more time to edit stuff, or, you know, I got so much going on that I can work on other things. So it's not a huge, I had that happen yesterday. Actually, I had a fighter who was late and they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, it's no big deal. Like, honestly, like I just got a work that I had to do anyways done. So it's not a big deal. But yeah, I had a fighter on this card this weekend that totally flaked on me, and I tried rescheduling it and they totally didn't get back to me. And I keep that stuff in mind because it's like, you're just wasting my time. Like at least like if you miss something, and I've had it where I've missed interviews, just say you screwed up, you forgot, whatever, and try and just say you're sorry and we'll figure it out. But if you're a fighter and you don't even get back to me or whatever, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to remember that because I'd rather interview someone that's going to be organized and take the time to do it than someone else. And another tip, don't get mad at people. Like there's plenty of times, Nicole, where I've wanted to get upset with a fighter or a manager because they've screwed something up or something didn't go right or they've switched things up at the last minute. I keep my mouth shut because you're never going to win that argument. You're never going to look good in the end. I just keep it professional as much as I can. And you just move on and you just, you roll with the punches, as they say, no pun intended.
Yeah. What about like when losing outlets that you work for or navigating that in MMA media, especially because there are some that pop up and then they disappear, or how do you like have lasting power with them? Or do you feel, this is like a two-part question, but do you feel pressure to like strive in that like outlet to help them so that you don't lose your job? Because I feel like that sometimes.
No, I just find that like I recognize that I have like a decent following, so I think that's a bit of a commodity as well. I just make sure that I give them like a really good interview. I promote it well on social media. It's good quality stuff, like top-notch video production, top-notch graphics, like and then I'm doing my part. But at the same time, I'm always keeping in mind the time thing, right? Like I know a lot of outlets like you to write up your interviews. Like I typically don't like doing that because it takes up too much time, and I think people like I actually put a lot of time into my video production, so it's not just me just, recording something off, Skype recorder or StreamYard and I just throw it up. I'm not doing that. I'm actually taking time to edit it and make it look good. So that takes time. So I keep that in mind when I'm like doing my content. So I try and give them the best video production they can have, depending on what they're paying me. And then from there, yeah, I mean, I don't really worry about that because like at the end of the day, as long as I'm doing my job, if I'm giving them a good interview, if I'm giving them a good quote, I'm putting effort into, making like sort of good points from the interview that I can promote on social media, then I've done my job. And look, this industry is unpredictable. Look what happened to us at Line Movement. You talked to Dan Tom. I mean, we worked there for a while. Everything was good financially. We were getting paid quite well. The channel, like the MMA side of things was growing, and then we stopped getting paid, and then we started getting worried about that. And then the hammer came down late last month where they're like, yeah, we'll pay you everything, but we're getting rid of our MMA department. So it happens. Like, you just have to expect that this can all go away in a minute. And that's why I like freelancing, because like, as opposed to working for one outlet, because if I do have that situation happen, I still have other outlets that are paying me money. So I'm not out on the street, so to speak. So that's why I don't mind doing the freelance thing. And that happened to me. So Line Movement, that happened to me. And then I had another outlet last week, odds.com, that are just like, hey, we got budget issues. We got to cut you loose. So when that happens, I just readjust, and I put the bat signal out there on social media, and we'll see what comes through. And thankfully, Middle Easy came on board, so I'm working with them now. I've got a couple other meetings this week, so I'm just lucky. Like, honestly, like, I don't know, like, I have no clue what the future looks like, but I just try and put out good work. I try and get better, and then I hope everything works out for the best. So,
I mean, it must be stressful, like when one does bail on you, and then you're like, oh no, but then you're always like confident you're going to get another one.
Yes and no. When Line Movement went out, I was like, whatever, it's just one outlet, it's not a big deal. When the other outlet went out, I was getting a little bit worried, just because like I'm fine financially, because like thankfully the YouTube money, like basically that I was making, that sort of was like my savings. So that money can therefore be replaced to like what I was making before. So I'm not worried financially from that standpoint. I'm more worried of just, I want to get back to making what I was making before. And so there's always sort of that push as well to do it. So yeah, it's not like, I never had that feeling like I had when I got let go from my full-time job, where it was like, oh crap, like, am I even going to be able to go back to freelancing full-time? Like, I have no idea what the landscape looks. And it's interesting because like, other than I think one or two outlets, all the outlets I work for now were not outlets I worked for when I went freelance back in 2017. Like, they're all different. So it just goes to show like this is a very changing industry, but I try not to worry too much, just because of like how quickly I've been able to get work, I guess, if that makes sense. So I just feel like I must have something to offer if I'm getting people getting in touch with me. Right. So for now, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you never know, right? So I honestly, Nicole, I have that mentality of like, this could all like go away at any moment. So I just try and get better and just make myself more valuable in the industry, if that makes sense.
I mean, you have your own stuff. You have your Patreon, you have your YouTube. Do you ever like think about making your own website?
All the time. Yeah. People ask me about that a lot. I'm actually in the process of maybe doing something like that. My thing is like with the website, I don't know enough about like the ads and all that stuff to like make it like profitable. So for me, it's like, most of my stuff's video anyway. So I just put all my interviews on like a playlist, and it's very easy to find. Like, and I always promote that too whenever I'm doing my podcast. I say, look, like, you're not going to get notifications on my interviews, but if you go into my YouTube page every day, you're going to see new interviews in there under the playlist. And like, I don't make money off that. Like, I just put the interviews in the playlist, but at least for like the viewer, it's easier for them to find. And I do those tweets every week where I'll list all my interviews that I've done for an upcoming card. So it's very easy to find it that way as well. So yeah, website is probably something I need to do. It's the next step. I've sort of tackled everything else, in terms of like, getting like a custom track for my music channel, getting like logos made and merchandise, like what I'm wearing here. I'm trying like different things of trying to just get more income in. And that's sort of the last thing I think is the website. So it's on the list, Nicole, for sure.
All right. Well, would you want to do like writing too? Like bring on people to be with you for like articles and video? I feel like both would be beneficial.
Yeah. And sorry, I didn't mean to like interrupt you there. Cause no, I think if I had the time, if I had the bandwidth to do it, I'd consider it. I'm so busy. Like I can barely keep up with my own work. And to manage other people, I think would be a little difficult, but you never know. Like, I think my goals have kind of shifted. I don't know if this is something you're going to ask me at some point, but, I think it would be great to work for like a one of those prestigious outlets and all that. But I know I'm at that level, like I know that I can get good interviews. I know that I do good work. I know this because of the work I'm getting and the feedback I'm getting from fighters and managers and all that. So I know I have a place in this industry. So if I never go to a bigger outlet, I'm fine with that. I can live with myself, because just doing this full time is a milestone in itself. I think now, sort of just looking at the landscape of everything, I think the goal for me long term would to be just do everything on my own channel and just make money using sponsors and just be my own outlet, because then I can control everything myself. I can pick and choose who I want to interview. I don't have to worry about, is an outlet going to change their mind? Do they have budget issues? I don't have to worry about any of that because I control everything. So I think that would be the ultimate goal right now, is to just be like a full-time like content creator / journalist, and just, like if I could do a daily show, that would be great, and have a sponsor and make enough money to do that and not work as much as I am now. Because I'll tell you this, I can't keep this up forever. Like, I know there's going to be a point where I have to figure out a way to, try and do better work and get paid more for it and do less overall work, if that makes sense. That's sort of the goal, I think.
Definitely what you said about the ads and everything, that stuff, it confuses me too, and I need to get, maybe my next episode will be somebody who knows something about that, because
then I'll watch and I can learn.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know who that would be. I have to look into it, but yeah, I was actually thinking about the same thing. I don't know if you saw, I've been doing like some surf interviews, and I like just stumbled upon that, and I was like, I would love to do my own like website for that stuff, because when I write that stuff, it's for fan-sided, and there is not even like a surf category to click on. Like, I'm basically the only one doing it, so I was like, oh, if I can get a website going for that kind of stuff too, and then I need to know about, like, of course, like sponsors and ads and stuff like that.
But it's good to diversify your skill set. I mean, when I was working at Line Movement, I was also doing some stuff for the NFL and their hockey show and stuff. So it's good to like not just focus on MMA, because like, who knows where this industry is going. It might be good to like learn some other stuff. I was actually on a call yesterday with a guy that's doing some like hockey stuff. So it's like, I think it's good to expand your horizons and see how other sports operate. And I come from a television sports background anyway, so I kind of had a good sense of a lot of the stuff before diving into this, because a lot of people who are in this industry, they come from like a writing background. I come from a television background, so that's why like video is kind of like up my alley, because I was doing that for years in my day job, so I kind of had an upper hand in that way. But yeah, I think it's great that you're doing other stuff, and I think it just makes you more valuable in the grand scheme of freelancing.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you if you wanted to do any other sports. So
yeah, I'd love to do hockey. I'm a huge hockey fan. I think it's mandatory if you're Canadian that you have to be a hockey fan. So if I could do something there, that would be cool. And I'm actually, I'm open to a lot of different things. So I think if I could fit it in my schedule, I would be more than happy to do some hockey stuff.
If you were, let's just say you wanted to get into hockey stuff, it's like you have such an in with MMA. How would you even get started with another sport? That's like kind of when I'm out with surfing so far. Like, they've come to me so far. Everybody's reached out to me, and it's like been pretty big names, I guess, in the surf world. But I'm like, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna go searching for some more interviews, and I don't even know where to start. Like, in MMA, you like kind of know the managers, you kind of know how to get in touch with everybody. But if you if you just want to get into MMA media, let's talk, because that's what we're talking about, or another sport. Like, how would you even get started with finding out how to contact somebody?
Well, I think MMA is a bit different. I think there's more accessibility in MMA. Like, I can't tell you how many people I see doing video interviews now, and I know they didn't go through their management. They just hit them up on Instagram, and a lot of fighters are very receptive on Instagram. So that's how they're able to get the interviews. So it's a bit different that way. I think it is good to build relationships with management, because then, not only are you getting it in with the management, but also like, there's potential for you to work and get some of their bigger clients if they know that you're like a reliable guy and they know already about you. Like, it blows my mind that people think they're going to let, or just starting out, think they're going to get like these UFC champions for interviews. And it's like, why would they, like what's the incentive for the fighter to do that if you're on such a small platform? So it's important to sort of start your way, from the ground level, and look at this as a long game. Like, a lot of people want to get into this. They're like, I'm going to do this full time. Like, there's probably 20% or 15% of people that actually do this full time. And even for me to get this full time, it took me years to get to this point. Like, you have to build a good brand, build a good foundation, have a good reputation, and all those things have to click. And then you have to find a niche on top of that. That's something that not a lot of other people are doing. So you just have to be realistic about the industry. And there's no like information out there. Like, there's no like blueprint on how to do this. With other sports there is, because they've been around longer. But with MMA, like, pretty much anyone can get into this, even if you don't have a journalism background. So yeah, I'd say my tip is to I would say learn, reach out to people you respect. If you want to be a long form writer, get in touch with, Sean Al-Shadi or Chuck Mendenhall. If you want to do video interviews, get in touch with, myself or Mike Heck or Ariel Hawani, or someone that's already doing this, and learn from them. And then, figure out how they got to where they got to. Because a lot of people, get into this on their own. They have no on-camera experience, and it shows. I mean, I can't tell you how many bad interviews I watch all the time, just because I like watching everyone's content, but you can tell that they're not polished, and they kind of get an ego. They're like, oh, I got an interview with a UFC fighter, I'm blowing up. It's like, no, like you're not where, like, to me, you've made it in this industry when you start getting paid. That's how I look at it. And if you're not getting paid, there's a reason for that. You're not at that level yet. You got to keep working at it. So my tips would be, find people that do really good stuff that you want to do and learn from them. Two is don't just interview UFC fighters, talk to the regional fighters. They're very easy to be accessible to. And if you're doing interviews, it's a great way to start practicing your interviews, because guess what? If you screw up an interview with a regional fighter, no one's going to care as much as you say interviewing a big name fighter that you just happen to get on Instagram, right? So that helps too. And then also just be realistic. Like, like I said, you're not going to get to do this full time if you start out right away. And just, keep it consistent. Do like an interview a week or an article a week and start off small. And if you're going to school or have a job, do that as your main source of income. But don't get into this for the money. There's not a lot of money in here. And even if you do make decent money, you got to work your ass off like I do. It's not very sustainable for a lot of people. So those would be sort of the biggest tips I would recommend to anyone looking to get into this. But also don't be afraid either. Start today. There's no reason you can't start. I see people being like, I'm thinking about starting a channel in a couple months. Start it today. Nothing's like, everyone's doing it. So you might as well get on the bandwagon.
Also, I want to ask you about like putting yourself out there, kind of like being on video. I know you do a lot of reactions to like things that happen. I like wanted to do that myself. I do that sometimes, but like I have a problem with like, oh, I didn't do my hair today. Like I was like there was like something happened with
content. It's the content.
Yeah.
That right there.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. Like none of that like, yeah, you obviously want to be presentable and stuff, but people care about the content at the end of the day. They don't care about other stuff. The people that do care about that stuff, that's them finding something they don't like about you and trying to point that out because they wish they could do what you're doing. That's what I've discovered over the time, because it's like you're nitpicking at something stupid. Like to me, it's the content's what it is at the end of the day. If you said something wrong or you said something good, you're going to hear about it. And I think, yeah, with the reaction videos, I've kind of, a lot of them I do now behind my Patreon, because some of them don't, like, to me, it's got to view well on my channel if it's going to work. Like if I know I'm not going to get 1,000 views on something, like it's got to be like, if I find out news right away, you have that advantage where like, you can get it up before everyone else and you can get views that way. And also it's got to be a good topic. Like, something like Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, if the trilogy got booked, I do a reaction video to that right away because it's going to view very well. Say like a Jack Hermanson and Edmund Shabazian fight, I'm not going to do a reaction video on that on my main channel because that might get me 500 views, maybe if I'm lucky. But you're kind of taking a risk there. And how YouTube works is, if you have videos that view well, you're sort of put in a category, and if you have videos that view bad, it takes you out of that category. So you always want to be in a certain spot. So I'm very careful about what I put on my main channel. That's why I have a second YouTube channel as well, where it's like stuff that I know that's not going to view well. I can put it up there. It's not going to affect my overall channel. So I try and put stuff that I know is going to be like premium content on my YouTube channel. And then the other stuff I'll put in Patreon, because it doesn't matter how much it's viewing. It's still going to go, like people are paying to still watch the content, if that makes sense. So
I didn't know that. I put some stuff up that obviously doesn't do great. It's like me just doing something I want to do. But then like it seems like every good like video that I do that like gets a big hit is always about Khabib. So I was like, all right, so maybe I should just do
Right.
Yeah.
that wave as long as I could. Some of my highest viewed videos over the last year of doing anything to do with Hamzat Chimaev. Like those Muslim fans, they're like all into it, and there's a huge population of them as well. So these are things you'll learn over time. Like this is something that's taken me a bit to figure out of like what views well, what doesn't. Yeah, names are a big thing. Like certain names do very well. Like Chimaev, Habib. Even like I'm even seeing good numbers here on Stipe and Ngannou. Not necessarily Stipe. I think there's a lot of Ngannou fans, so that's where people are sort of like watching as well. You just have to pick up on what like sort of does well and what doesn't. It's YouTube's very weird that way, like with the algorithm. So you have to kind of like just kind of pay attention and know what's going on a little bit. But I would recommend to you, like, I would even consider maybe doing a second channel where you can still get the content out there, and then, it's not going to impact your channel overall, but teach their own. I mean, when I started, I put everything up, so it didn't matter. And then I just slowly started to get better numbers, but it happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was funny because like a lot of the comments were like in Russian, and like people, you could tell like they like try to translate it. I was like, oh, all right, cool. You guys like it? I'll keep putting it out.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's and you have a platform. I mean, that's the big thing. Just get it out there and get the message out. And I'm always one of those people, like if I got something that's fresh and good, I'll throw it up. And even if sometimes the views get impacted, so be it. But I got like if it's something timely, like I'll definitely put it up, in the right amount of time. So.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about like the pay structure. Like you did one of your media things, and I like asked you a question about like pay, and I don't remember exactly the number you gave me, but I remember it was like blew my mind because there's not even close getting paid that number. I forget what you said exactly, but
no, I think
minimum, this is my opinion personally. I think the minimum you should get paid for any piece of content, whether it's video or articles, should be around $25 US, because you really have to think of it as an hour thing. Now, if you're not right, like if you're doing, I know it's different for articles. Like I know some sites that pay you based off clicks. I mean, if you're just starting out, sure, but like I think that's such a waste of time. Like there's some, like I know BJ Penn sort of operates on that model, but they get so many hits that you know you're going to guaranteed like good money. But like there's some sites out there that like I remember there was one I wrote for. I think I only did a couple articles for them, but I did like a couple like even like notable name articles. I kept that in mind. I was like, okay, I'm probably going to get paid a decent amount. I think I made 25 cents, and I was like, okay, this is not worth my time. So yeah, I think if you're doing anything, I think you should be looking at it as an hourly thing. And I think, you know, $20, $25 US is probably a good amount for an article, for an interview, anything along those lines. I think that's should be sort of the you know, the bare minimum what you should do. And by the way, like if you're just starting off, you're not going to get paid that. You need a bunch of, you're going to have to probably do a lot of stuff for free for a while until you've established that you can do things in a timely manner. You can write properly. You're not, you know, you don't have an editor that's going to have to go in there and, you know, clean up a bunch of your work. So that's what I would look at, because it's got to be worth your time. Like I said, time is money. And, you know, I see a lot of, like, I know people that have still been doing this for years that are still doing the, you know, click per article thing, and they're making like, you know, $50 or something. And to me, I don't know, it's not worth it. I'd rather have something more concrete where you know how much you're going to get paid. But that's just my experience. I mean, it might be different for other people.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what I've experienced is not even close to that. Not even close.
Okay.
So maybe I'm in a different boat. I mean, also like, you know, with, yeah, just I think as I've gotten, you know, more like, you know, created more of an audience, my rates have gone up for sure, because I know that it's not just me doing the work, it's also, you know, the platform I have as well. So I can maybe demand a little bit more. But yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, like I was getting paid pretty well for some of my interviews. So it's just you just sort of learn from experience as far as I'm concerned. So.
I mean, there are some benefits with certain websites if they have UFC credentials and stuff like that. Like you might take a little bit of a hit on like what you're getting paid, if you get to go to the events, and you know that could make up for it too.
100%.
That's another thing that we should probably talk about is like, yeah, find outlets that have UFC credentials, because it's worth it just to stick around with them. Like a couple of the outlets I work for, they do have UFC credentials. So once this pandemic ends, or not ends, but once I can go to the US again, I will definitely be going to events, and I'll probably hit them up and, you know, say, hey, can I use you? And here's the catch though, because there's a little bit of a gray area there with the whole credentials thing, right? Like a lot of outlets will not pay you to go cover an event for them. So how do you determine it? What I used to do, this is what I did with Flow Combat, and it worked out great, was I would say to them, look, I want to use you guys as an outlet to go cover events, but I want to put everything on my channel. I want to get all the ad revenue from it. You guys really lose nothing. You're not paying me to send me out anywhere, but you do get that exposure of me not only being on the front lines, but you have your, you know, your logo on there as well. A lot of outlets don't like doing that, but I really think that's the most fair way to do things. Like I know people that will, you know, use the outlet to go cover things, and then they have to put all the content for them. And it's like, you've just sunken in however much money, like to, you know, that outlet, and you don't get anything out of it. Like you spent like a couple hundred, because it's not cheap. Like if you go to Vegas or go especially New York, I've had to do a couple events in New York. Like you're spending a ton of money there, not only just for food and hotel, but like, you know, getting around, cab, or, you know, Uber, all that stuff. So that's what I think is the way to do things. I would negotiate with an outlet being like, hey, like, can we work something out where at least I can make some money off of this? Or if they are going to pay you, like make sure it's like, you know, a decent amount. Like I had one outlet a couple of years ago, they were paying me like $100 a day. And I'm like, okay, that might cover my meals for the day, but that's not covering my hotel. That's not covering transportation. Like there's a lot of things that go into it. So you got to be careful about that. It's a very gray area, but it's something that I've had to negotiate in the past.
But there's also a benefit of going to these events. Even if you're not getting the content, if you have to give them the content, it's like you're getting your face out there. I know for being...
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I just think as well, like you don't, you know, it's not like you can do that all the time, because otherwise you're just throwing money down the toilet basically, you know? So, but you're right in the investment sense. Like I can say this like very surely that a lot of the jobs that I've got have been because people have seen me at events and do the work I'm doing. I know that for a fact. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of a little bit cliquey too. When you go to the events, like the, you know, people that know each other that are always there kind of stick together. And if one of them is looking for a job, they're more likely to be picked up by the other people that they know from the events, you know, getting your face out there.
There, say hi. And I know I'm not the most friendly guy there. And it's part of the reason is because I just got so much shit to do. And I'm just in my head, I'm like, this is all business. So it's like, that's why I'm kind of like running around and doing stuff. But I mean, yeah, if I had a team of people, like if I had a video guy and I could just answer questions and not have to worry about uploading content, I'd be the friendliest guy in the world. It's just, I'm always thinking business wise, like, hey, I got to get this content up. I got to get it out fast. It's got to look good. It's got to be accurate. I got to create a good headline. Like it's tough. If you're doing the one-man show thing, it's very tough, but it's also very rewarding as well if you can get it done the right way. So
no, you probably don't have this happen, but do some fighters get paid to do interviews? Because I was on a website where you like can kind of like request interviews with fighters, and on the very bottom it said like, is this a paid thing? And I was
I have never paid for an interview. I've heard of a few outlets that have done that. But yeah, you should never do that. That's like the number one rule in journalism, because then it's a conflict of interest if you're paying them to do an interview. I've also seen, this is another thing that I've seen recently, that whole cameo thing, right? Where a fighter will get paid to like say something. I've seen people do that and ask a fighter their pick and then put that on their channel and make money off of it. That's a bit of a gray area. But yeah, paying for an interview, that's a big no-no. You shouldn't do that.
It was like, I didn't think that people did that, but I guess I did.
Yeah, no, it's
weird.
It's not common, but I have heard it every now and then. So.
All right. I mean, that's pretty much all I got question-wise.
Okay, sure, yeah, whatever you need, and I'd love to do this again.
You wanted to talk about Mario Kart.
Oh, yeah,
I liked when you did those videos where you like used to go play video games with the fighters and stuff like that. That was fun.
Bring them back. I'm definitely going to bring those back if when I go on the road again, because there's a lot of fighters I want to play video games with. I need to work on my setup a bit more, because I want to figure out a way where I can actually get the direct input, because I don't know if you know, in those videos I have to actually just like get a camera like lined up to film the screen, but there's got to be a way to do it like within the computer. I did figure out one way. Cody Stamen and I did one back in 2019. So yeah, I got to do that. But I love doing that. It's fun. They don't view well, but I mean, that's one of those things. It's fun to do, and it's different. And you kind of get the fighters, kind of in a different light. They're playing video games as opposed to like talking about the fight or whatever. I mean, we do talk about the fight, but it's in a more of a casual manner. So, but who's your character? Who do you play in Mario Kart?
In the old school, I used to be Donkey Kong all the time.
Okay.
Donkey Kong.
So now, when you say old school, just
it's 64 and
Super
N64
Nintendo version or the N64 version?
N64 version, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a Yoshi guy, always Yoshi. I am fascinated. I'll tell you this, and I don't mind including this in here. Like, I love watching. There's a whole like bunch of people out there who have figured out all the glitches in Mario Kart to the point of where like, and I'm like fascinated by this, because I've spent many hours in my teens playing Mario Kart with my friends, and to see someone figure out like I forget which race it is. Like the Rainbow Road cheat where you can fly over. If you do the jump, you can go off the track and go into the other track and you get a huge lead. But there's some other like weird ones where like, what's the Wario Stadium one? That one. There's a one where if you go off the little hill and you jump on the other side, and then there's a way to like it makes you think you're in first or something. I don't know. There's all these like little glitches. I'm like fascinated by this stuff. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to like the retro video game stuff. So.
Yeah, I play Mario Kart Tour on my phone, and I'm like obsessed with it.
Is it good? I don't play any games on my phone.
I like it.
A lot of people getting into it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, but I feel like I was playing it like during the day. I was like getting a headache. I was like, I have to play this at night, because it's like you have to like be like right up in there.
No, that's why that's why I don't think I like playing on my phone. I like playing. So I bought a Nintendo Switch like last year during the quarantine, which is very rare for me because I play a lot of old games. But I got it because my son, then he can play with me. But we play the new Mario Kart, the Mario Kart 8, which, by the way, where did the other 7 games go? Like, how did they determine 8 was going to be the number? I don't get that. Yeah, something like that. But what I like about Mario Kart with my son is that like he can just press the power button, because he can't, like, he's not at that age yet where he's going to be 4 this year, but he's not at the age yet where he can like actually move the car around very well. So he'll just press the gas and I'll steer, and then we can play together. So I like that, because with the 2 controllers.
That's fun. For that one, I always pick Lakitu. I don't know why.
We use the I forget the name. Is it Tanuki? The raccoon Mario. I like him. I like that one as a kid. So we got to play one of these days, Nicole, by the way. Next time I go to New York, the East Coast, which I don't know. It's very expensive to go out there, but I do feel like I need to go back to New York at some point. So maybe we'll do it then.